Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice at 9. Of course, we're playing Mussolini's War. And mostly right now, picking and choosing which next tech and doctrine to research, but cruiser crew training advance. That's about all that's happening at the moment. Okay, that's good. Do we want to spot what other cruisers or what other nations are doing? I guess so. And stormtrooper tactics. No, these aren't the guys in white or the guys in brown. What we do now can jump over to infiltration tactics, which attack, movement, assault, and ambush. Well, we're going to continue with the stormtrooper for the moment. And battlecruiser armor has advanced. That was partially here to get to special treatment or cemented armor, aircraft armor carrier, at least 2. So we've got that. Now we're going to do this thing here. Oh hell. Oh damn. We got to get to at least 2 there. Maybe we don't do this. Maybe I made a mistake in trying to pursue this. Not that we get any more that's bad, but okay, I guess we're just not going to do this, so we're going to do this. That'll help with build costs, reduce our sea defense, I know, but hopefully we can make up for it in some other way. Okay, well, Germany has jumped fast ahead. Okay, well, for us, we've lost the effects of low popularity and are just back to medium popularity, which has no modifiers. Now Stalin has killed off any decent leadership in the Red Fleet, and Germany has decided Treaty of Munich. Okay, well, again, another thing that we're not allowed to intervene into so much. Okay, good, I guess. That happens a little fast. Now we have, that's hurting our sea defense. Capital ship, battleship armor. Well, those are already pretty good, but that. So far we've been growing our production well. Okay. Now advanced education advanced. Advanced education has advanced. Okay, and we're going to let that continue to advance. And interception tactics. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. Now this was really, as I was talked about before, a couple episodes ago now when I did my long rambling non-playing episode talking about Hitler courting Mussolini. This was done You know, we have the more detailed visit stuff that comes from TRE if you're playing with that with Hitler coming down to Italy. This is done here to get Mussolini's approval to get Austria. So this is part of what thinking maybe it's more of what I did in Hearts of Iron 4, but is that you have to get through this, and Italy has to allow this to happen to be able to get Austria as part of the stuff. The first visit to Italy by Adolf Hitler was undertaken from 3rd of May to the 9th of May 38, with stops in the most important cities: Rome, Florence, Venice, Naples. You've seen, if you played TRE, you've seen the version where with all the color photos from this event. I think it's, yeah. German delegation was comprised of the most important figures of the regime: Hermann Goering, the Dauphin of the Fuhrer. Okay, I'm with these. Is Hermann Goering the Dauphin of the Fuhrer or Rudolf? Oh man, they got this. So, who wrote this thing? Who wrote this? Oh my god. Okay, the Dauphin is, and I don't know exactly what the term means, but that's the term for the successor of the French king. So the Dauphin of France is like his eldest son, or it could be his younger brother, or whoever the Dauphin. The idea of, and I don't know exactly what it means, whether it's a specific, like the Prince of Wales in England is when one of the Plantagenet or whatever kings takes over Wales. It had been a Celtic country. They come in, and instead of organizing it straight into England or sort of giving up large chunks of it to other nobles, he gives it sort of to his eldest son, who's adult at that time, and an adult as sort of his principality. So he becomes Prince of Wales, to acknowledge that it's different than the rest of England, but the successor, and it sort of becomes de facto the successor becomes the Prince of Wales. But that can sometimes shift and not quite be, but as sort of his manager of it or whatever. So I don't know exactly if the Dauphin is something like that, but if they're saying Hermann Goering is the Dauphin of the Fuhrer, that's just absolutely wrong. The primary successor person was Rudolf Hess, and so it's Hess because normally you put Goering, the Dauphin, as referring to the person you just saw. Goering only sort of becomes successor, and the sort of becomes that to some degree, and clear number 2 in the Reich only after the fall of France. He is only becoming Reichsmarshal after the fall of France. And Hitler does that because Hitler, by making Goering the Reichsmarschall, he actually puts him above the OKW, the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, so that he's actually, it goes Hitler, Goering, Oberkommando der Wehrmacht. And then Goering again as commander of the Luftwaffe. At this time, he's just a marshal. He's not Reichsmarschall Goering. He's Marshal Goering, field commander of the Luftwaffe, just Marshal Goering. So he's not yet the Dauphin. And Rudolf Hess was Deputy Führer, who very well could have been the successor of Hitler. It's only as the war is growing, and then Hess does his stupid fly to Scotland thingy, that he's denounced. So if it's referring to Hess as the Dauphin. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's just weird because you'd just be Deputy Führer Rudolf Hess, or Deputy Leader, or whatever. Because that's what he was. He was Deputy Führer. Where Reichsführer SS, which just means the national leader of the SS, not national leader, but it's Reichsführer SS. You can have theoretically other Reichsführers of different departments. Is Heinrich Himmler. I think this picture is from a different visit. I think. I'd have to look through some of my stuff. But Joseph Goebbels and his wife Magdala, as well as numerous other key party officials. Mussolini escorted Hitler in visiting Italy and shows him numerous parades and military exercises. Hitler, on board the Comte de Cavour battleship, was impressed by the Navy exercises conducted by 90 submarines and the entire surface fleet. The reason I sort of say that is I'm trying to remember this patch that Hitler is wearing. He wears it, maybe it's this trip, but it's one trip. He wears it for it, and that's it. And it's a triangle patch, I guess, that Mussolini gives him or something, and it's a fascist patch. And he only wears it during one trip in a visit to Italy. Maybe it was this one, but I'm not sure. But it was sort of an odd patch that Hitler wore. And sort of the way to spot which Hitler and Mussolini. Sometimes you see pictures of Mussolini visiting Hitler in Germany, and no, because Hitler's wearing this patch, and he only wore it the time when he was in Italy, or it's a different trip, but I have to look that up to know. So we can do gain dissent, lose neutrality, relations improve, not welcome, lose in dissent, lose. Okay, well, of course we're going to do this because we're trying to get better alliances with Germany. Join faction. We are trying to influence ourselves that way. Where is Italy? Okay, so we're really hovering down here. And so we're trying to get into your faction. Well, we're being influenced away by others. Fuel, no. Okay, new victor, cemented armor, so that just happens really fast. Or vickers non-cemented, new vickers non-cemented. We're gonna stop that because I don't know how much I want to speed up versus speeding up is important. And oh, we stole some American blueprints. Small ship classes to level 3. So that's here. We weren't researching that, I don't think, anymore. We jumped up there. So that will help us for a while. Well, let's do that. Very good. Supply production, great. That is very useful. And we will convert it over to oil refinery. Get more oil, as we will need it when we are being much more active. Navies. And we stole some blueprints from Britain. This is really helping out. Ooh, okay, this is really helping out. And this is because I often do some which now of course we have to pay for it, and I think we will, but yeah, costly. What I don't get is nearly as many when I'm playing as Germany, but I think that's just because, and I do normally target Britain to hopefully get their better naval technologies. Yeah, until September 38. Okay, yeah, we can do that. But we're getting so much more because I just think there's so many more things we're behind with on superchargers. Yeah, base defense on a lot of aircraft types. See, more American blueprints stolen. Tank destroyer to level 2. Now we were researching that, so that helps us out, but we obviously already had put some effort into that. Okay, well, now we can do tank destroyer upgrades if we want to do just that instead. Or do we want to wait for medium? 42, probably not. Let's just shift here to medium artillery upgrades. Fuel, crude oil, no thank you. And sonar detection equipment. Let's hear them when they're pinging us. I think we should come over and do these. Okay. Not worth it. Finland. Okay, and what can, oh, we got our transport. Yeah, we got space down here. And we're going to make sure he doesn't use up. He's not a good general. And not a level 2 guy. Let's see, can we find a level 0 for him? Yes. Somebody. I wanted to get that to be able to supply. Like fly supplies to North Africa or something. I thought that would be important. Or could be important. And it also helps with these other sorts of stuff. Okay, destroyer escort role has advanced. No, it's down here. Yeah, we're stopping that. Recon unit coordination. Let's switch that down to here. Put you here with infantry guns, I think is what we'll do. Fuel, fuel, fuel. Okay, well. I guess we'll continue our marginal support for Spain. Medium artillery has advanced. As quick as that. Down here. Yeah, I think so. Let's fuel. New engine fighter prototype, very good. Sorry about that. That would look good for... Yeah. And what decision do we have to... Oh, come on. Send resources to help Franco, yes. We will do that. We'll gain some money, but we're still at war. No, we're not. No. Don't need that. We're stockpiling crude oil reasonably well. Medium armor upgraded. That would be down here. Okay, yes, and we'll grade out until we can do that some more. That way, if we have an armored support unit somewhere, they'll have medium instead of light armor. Albania. We're just going to take whatever you have later on. Okay, so we've got 3 fighters there. Well, let's just add these to it. That's in Genoa. This way to better cover whatever we get into with France. I don't want to be bombed. I want air support. Fuel, crude oil, fuel. Oh, well, they wanted money, whatever. Okay. And we're going to add that to the Reggio Marina. Okay. Italy wins its second FIFA World Cup because of World War II. The World Cup was not held for another 12 years until 1950. As a result, Italy was the reigning World Cup holder for a record of 16 years from 34 to 50. Italian Vice President of FIFA, Dr. Ottorino Barassi, hid the trophy in a shoebox under his bed throughout the Second World War and thus saved it from falling into the hands of occupying troops. Well, I don't know that the Americans would have cared. Germans might have taken it, but oh, the FIFA World Cup? What the hell's that? Yes, America doesn't care. Oh, we got more blueprints from America. Okay. Fighter targeting focus. So we lose focus on bombers, but better focus on fighters. Don't know if I would have chosen that, but cool. It's an awfully expensive regiment there. 15 I see for that guy. And it's all the way until July of next year. That's a bit too expensive, I would say. Okay, fighter pilot training has advanced. Now that is something that I would choose and did. Let's jump over to ground crew. Keep them fighting, get them back up in the air quicker. Inner service HQs. This way, the big thing, of course, is the delay between attacks, but theoretically, the Navy or the Air Force can talk to the Army, can talk to the Navy a little better. These got to be at war. Yeah, I thought so. Too bad we didn't get any of those really done or good or whatever during our war with. Because that is a if you want to do a exploit, is to just sit down here, sort of don't take Addis Ababa for the longest time. Just sit and hold it, or hold the front line here, and stay at war. You'll get because I'm no longer at war economy, because it really jumps this up, consumer goods. And I don't know, again, if somebody wants to do the math to know it better, I don't know whether being at the war economy while at peace, that's the key as well, at peace, whether the jump in consumer goods versus overall IC, which is better, you know, is the jump in IC bigger than the consumer goods needs? I don't know that it is. So, yeah, because this is costing us more than one of these things. That's way too expensive. We're going to reduce that down, because that way we'll get more of these guys. Well, yeah, let's come over here for a computing machine. We should have been doing that earlier in 38. Very beginning of 38, we should have been doing that. And we've got more. Let's improve our abilities of army unit command and control level 2. Well, very good. That we hadn't been. I know we hadn't been researching it. So, yes, great. This tech stealing for us right now is really working out. And we have been getting enough spies, I see here. 3 spies. Coming in that we're at 10 and 10. Are we at 10 and 10? Yes, and then we're still at 10 for us. So what I'm going to do is, let's steal supplies from our good friends, the Germans. Not to harm them, just to get Panzer technologies or things, I don't know, from them. Defense report. Okay, minor breakthrough, whatever, I don't know in which. Okay, we gotta pause this, too much going on. Okay, what, don't like this. Okay, yeah, let's put this in with the other thing, so we'll have one group. I want to keep, I'm sort of balanced out between bombers and flying boats, and we will be strong enough to, you know, hopefully not get all shot to pieces, either attacking the British surface fleet or air power. I don't know, let's go with 2. We got some good practicals up there. There we go, that'll be good. And send help to China. Okay. If we do that, we may get some units back. 50 manpower. Fuel and supplies. Yeah, we're going to do that. It's sort of counterintuitive, but I'm just deciding to do it. Okay. We would like supplies. Poland would like supplies in exchange of money. Okay. Let's get, well, we're just going to take whatever we want from you eventually. Yeah, I do sort of have that somewhat predatory, like for Greece. If we conquer them, we'll just get everything, but we're not going to make it. And I know been suggested, oh, make Italy fascist. Yeah, we're not going to get that far in the series. Sorry. We're going to get back to Germany sometime. Okay, flying boat prototype has advanced. Now, I think I may have mentioned this before, but Italy was big into flying boats. They had a lot of flying boat races down there that were international competitions, all really sort of in a desire to improve the technology for themselves as well as others. A lot of light bombers, so let's do that. And so they were big into flying boats. you got to look at it from Italy's perspective. Mediterranean is relatively calm, at least compared to the Atlantic. And there's a lot of places that you can have sort of flying boat harbors that you don't necessarily have to have an air base at, and you can just sort of have onshore some smallish boats that rush out to, you know, the aircraft and refuel them, and off you go. You know, that kind of thing, to impromptu. So you got a lot of use for it. Okay, yes, American blueprints. Armored car designs to level 2. And yes, partial. Oh, come on. For the game effect, we are going to look at this. So great. So we've got to level 2 already, with only researching to level 1. And attritional warfare. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, we might as well just finish this off. Get another 2%. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, pause. Yes, we will do that. Oh, no. Commander decision making, that's under Navy. Okay, so we're pretty well caught up on a lot of these things. I don't know. I do sort of want light cruiser escort role, but most of those, no. Let's do, we have a fair number of light and medium bombers, so let's go attack bomber. You actually want fuel. Okay, you can have fuel. And oh, did I mess this one up? I think I meant to have. Oh no, I have the infantry battalion there. Yeah, this was meant to be a sort of a cheap, fast. Armor unit. Down here to fight the desert rats. Nah, I think we're going to put it up here to fight the Italians. Okay. Yeah, we want to come through the hills there, so let's put you here. Yeah, we're going to leave this guy. He's a 0, but he has armor. And so that way we have some armor, light as though it may be. Try to punch through the French front. Yeah, so we have to expand this because we have more. I have this other unit here that I also added anti-aircraft with. So a little bit more expensive, but not much. And I figured do some light armor to get the practicals up and going. Three-man turret, well, good. That is, of any of these techs, in my opinion, I've come more and more to the conclusion that, yeah, most important thing. Not necessarily in game terms, but in historical terms. Having a 1. I just watched the part 2 to the Salma S-35 tank walk through the inside part. And it had a 3-man crew. And I thought it had a 4, but it had a 3-man crew. So it had a driver who looked out through very bad slits or opened up a thing, you know, his vision, you know, his vision hatch, if you will. And so that he could get nicely shot at with machine guns, or it was very hard to see through. No vision glass blocks or anything like that. So basically, he has to drive with that open. The tank turret, and I'm probably go over this again with the French series, but the tank turret. the top of it had a cupola that you could sort of stick your head up in and look through some slits, but wouldn't open. The Germans cut the top of it off and made a hatch that you can get it in and out of, but it's very small width in it. But mostly really sort of for you to stick your head out of the top, and not so if you wanted to look around. If you're the commander of the vehicle, want to figure out what you're doing, because it had otherwise very small vision slits, again, that were very poor. And so if you wanted to get your head out of the tank, that was the way the Germans wanted to get the head out of the tank. Now you can look at a lot of French vehicle commanders and German vehicle commanders. The back of the turret had a hatch that sort of, in an odd sort of way, sort of folded down with a screw thing. It was heavy because it was armored. That part was quite reasonable. But basically, and it's fairly small and fairly narrow, and can only be opened from the inside. So the vehicle commander had to get in through the one side hatch. It had one side hatch, one entry point if the turret wasn't open. And and you see pictures of them sitting on the back of this hatch, so that his entire body is outside of the tank. His legs are inside the tank. You see these pictures, and I've seen the Germans and the French pictured this way. The entire body is outside of the tank. The legs are inside, but the sort of most of your body is behind the turret. Now this is a pretty small turret. They actually, they had a very early version, and then sort of, the first like 10 tanks. But then they had a later sort of standard, slightly wider version. But this is nothing like a Panzer III turret or even a Panzer IV turret. This is a pretty narrow turret. And so if you're shooting at them directly in front of the turret does protect about half or more of your body, from machine gun bullets, basically. But if you're at anything at a side angle, you're completely exposed. The side of your body is completely exposed. And if you look at most warfare things, at tanks at times, especially what do they call? Oh, what is it? A cavalry tank who's charging in amongst the enemy, and not being a sort of an infantry support tank hanging back, because you got the idea. Basically, with an infantry support tank, generally the infantry advances, and the tanks sort of follow along with and or behind the infantry to shoot at identified hard spots to hit, or machine gun positions, that you're suppressing the enemy fire while your infantry is moving up. So your infantry is sort of a screen for your tank, and your tanks, that's sort of what they're doing. So they're shooting at machine gun nests mostly, and whether with their machine gun or their main gun, they can also doing that, or with their machine gun, they're sort of spraying down just general areas where there might be enemy riflemen to keep them suppressed as your infantry moves. That's sort of the idea of an infantry tank, that supports the infantry. The Sturmgeschütz often would fight in those kind of roles as well. Where like a cavalry tank, or if you look at it, Guderian's panzers with the Blitzkrieg kind of thing, they would use the idea was that they were to use their mass of vehicles to attack the enemy with a certain amount of speed and velocity. Meaning, if there's a couple of anti-tank guns there ready to take you out, they'll take out a couple of tanks, but in the time it takes to fire, load, get on to the next target, you got these guys moving at you 20 miles an hour or whatever, and they're coming at you. And they're closing the distance. They're going through the kill zone. They're rapidly advancing at you. So you will get hit. You will lose some tanks. Not especially in early anti-tank guns and particularly anti-tank rifles. Often you get penetrated without being destroyed, and might kill or wound a guy inside, just because the rounds were fairly small and the shrapnel effects. So yeah, people would be dying, but it wouldn't necessarily mean the tank stops. Wouldn't even if the tank does stop, doesn't mean that everyone's dead inside. It's not like these catastrophic hits that you see the turret 10 yards away upside down, the whole thing just blew up and everybody's just dead. That's normally bigger guns hitting them to do that kind of damage. So the idea is you're with a cavalry tank, you're coming in, and you're coming in fast so that you're bypassing or showing your flanks often to an enemy because you're hitting them with a certain amount of velocity. And the guys, particularly in front of you, they're going to get scared and either try to hide in their trench if it's sort of deep enough, to get down so the tank theoretically rolls over them. Or if it doesn't actually roll over them, you're rolling by them and you're sort of hiding from the machine gun bullets. Or you're getting up and running away. That's sort of your two basic responses to a tank. Now, the guys that are certainly sort of on the flank of the thing, and this is the Guderian 400 tanks in the division, is to make very little flank and a whole lot of frontage, if you will. But in the sort of small packets of, we're attacking with a battalion of tanks or a company of tanks, you'll have flanks. And so somebody on the flank, with a nice French machine gun can start shooting at the flanks of these tanks, and all the tank commanders have their body outside of the tank, they're going to get shot. And so that's sort of, if they're going to see and know what's going on, they got to get their body out of the tank. So that's sort of a fail there. And so they get in there. So he's in there, and then this is in the Salma, the S-35, and so he's alone in that turret. Now, there was a third guy in the tank, the radio operator. Now, most of the Salmas did not get radios. They were supposed to get radios, and I don't know quite the breakdown, and I don't know if there's any clear records to know whether it's like 40% got radios and 60% didn't, or whether it's more like 10 or 20% of them got radios. Supposedly the standard tank was to get one model that was really sort of poor and weak, and according to the description, a tree line would, clump of trees would block connections in it. Whether I think it was the company commander had two radio types. One was a bit bigger and more powerful in his tank, and the battalion commander had one radio that was much more powerful in his more expensive thing. So that, and probably a lot of the battalion and company commanders did get radios, but most of the tanks did not get radios. So you have a radio operator with no radio. And the French, unlike the Germans or the Americans or the British, did give the radio operator something to do additional to the operating radios. Normally, an auxiliary machine gunner in the hole. Again, to sort of shoot at anybody in front that sort of shows themselves, limited fire, but it's suppressive fire. It's the idea, not like, oh my God, as they're bouncing across even relatively flat field, that he's going to be, sniping or even, burst shots, just killing lots of enemy. No, just sort of periodic bursts of machine gun fire out there at what looks to be, tree lines and possible enemy hiding, or actual, there's, silhouettes of enemy out there. You're just sort of firing them, and trust me, if you're near bullets coming near you, within 3 or 4 yards, you hear the bullet go by you, the supersonic bullet just going whizzing by you. So and you don't necessarily know whether they miss your head by 12 inches or by 6 feet. You don't necessarily, at least the few times I've been shot near, you don't necessarily know how close the bullets are to you as they go past you. So, but you're being shot at. So you have a tendency to not take your time to aim to shoot at the person. Theoretically, the commander who has his head out of the hatch or something, even in a German, tank with his head out, or if you have an anti-tank gun or something, you're nervous, so you're nervous and you're not doing your job well enough, or you decide to run away, or you hide in the hole, or whatever you do. So just machine guns firing out of the front of the tank is useful. Don't want to burn up all your ammo, but you sort of want to suppress the enemy. They didn't have this option in the French tanks. Even if you look at the little Stuart light tank, it had a machine gun position in the hole, and in fact the earlier one had 2 extra machine guns that the driver shot. He had a fixed location, couldn't move them, just wherever the driver was pointing, and he had a lever that could shoot them quickly, filled the holes up, and never used them. They were silly. But pre-war and very early war American Army loved the machine guns on tanks. They put more machine guns than you know what to do with on tanks. But that was sort of the American fascination with it. They got the idea that machine guns are good, but they overdid it. Like I say, you know, the Stuart, sort of the standard one with that is a 37 millimeter gun and a coaxial 30 caliber machine gun, another 30 caliber down in the hole that the co-driver / radio type operator would be able to operate. And then on some tanks in the British service, and maybe I think some in the American, they also, the commander on top of his little cupola had another machine gun that he could sort of get out of the cupola and use to, sort of the idea was to shoot at aircraft, but or some other target. But again, it just more machine gun. So up to 3 on the Stuart, but only 1 coaxially machine gun on the Selma medium tank. So what basically this third guy in the tank is reduced to, and he had a couple really small vision slits that I don't know if we really could even open up to anything larger. And the vision slits were designed in such a way that they were weaker than the standard armor, so it gave more weak spots for the enemy to fire at. And so he could sort of kind of look out the tank and shout or thump the driver or bash the commander in the leg to try to get his attention, to like, there's a tank over there, you ought you ought to like do something about that, or something if he spots a thing, because inside the tank it had to be a god-awful racket just to talk. So he's reduced to that, or he has some ammo racks beside himself that he could hand ammunition up to the commander, for the commander to load it into the gun himself. He couldn't quite, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't think he could quite like load it, or any real chance of loading it while sitting in his seat from looking at the stuff. The seat was removed in one of the few Somas left in existence, and of course they could restore it. I'm sure there's some photos, but in the stuff it's just missing. But it sort of kind of looked like you probably couldn't reach it while sitting in your seat, but if you climb 3/4 of the way out of your seat, maybe you could kind of be the actual loader for the main gun. But mostly, it supposedly, from what we're saying, is he hands some ammunition up to the commander to load it. There didn't specify in the walkthrough because there are probably none there, but I don't think there was any. I don't know if there was any ammunition clips to clip actually like on the side of a tank turret like some of them do. You could sort of clip in ammunition to quick ready access. I think basically the radio operator had to hand ammunition up, or the commander had to duck down into the main hole of the tank to get some ammo to load into his gun. So again, the commander is reduced to overall like commanding the vehicle, seeing the situational awareness, mostly loading the gun. So that's what they sort of the guy, the chieftain, sort of calls it sort of a 1 1/4 man turret. So he's mostly loading the gun himself, and of course he's also aiming the gun himself. So, and once you're looking down that sight, you're in a very narrow focus field. You stop losing everything else out there. Now, if you spotted an enemy, and he showed, and it was pretty quick hand traverse, getting the turret around. So that would go pretty well. But once you spot the enemy, you got to be turning on to it, and then once you're sort of more or less aligned, you're starting to look through the sight. You're no longer looking around to see was there a couple of Panzers show up at the side of you to even realize what's going on. So you've reduced that down, and you're now focusing on hitting your target. So for a 3-man tank, that really wasn't good. So really, this tech of a 3-man turret. Now, Italian tanks are just about as bad. He hasn't really done any of those, but I do know a lot of them. Like I was saying earlier, the early gun-mounted tanks had their main gun in the hull and a turret for the machine gun. Then they later swapped that. They moved the machine guns down to the hull, but they moved the main gun up to the turret, but didn't quite have like room for machine guns up in the turret because it's small. So it's all really sort of small and not really very good. But so we've now burst past reality of Italy until about 1942, I think it was, when they come out with their first riveted armor. Still riveted armor, starting to slope it fairly well, at least on the turret and some of the things. Tank that's using a 75mm main gun. Again, not a very high velocity 75mm main gun. And, you know, sort of a modern, sort of, at least generally, you know, positional design 3-man turret tank that most of them end up getting used by the Germans after Italy surrenders the war. And Germany kept them in limited production, you know, keep producing what you got here and sort of keep the factory going for a while under German occupation. But it was really sort of coming, just, you know, being designed under the Italian, you know, fascist/royalist government, but doesn't really get field equipped in time. The rebuilt panzer divisions, Centauro and the other ones, I'm sort of blanking on them at the moment, because they get destroyed in North Africa, whether at you know, El Alamein, or finally up here in Tunisia, when they're rebuilt in Italy to defend off against the initial invasions. They're basically rebuilt with German armor. They're still using Italian tank types, quite a bit actually, but they're getting some Panzer IVs and such to augment them. So they still may be, when they're being rebuilt, around sort of cadre of the reserved and training elements of it. They're using a fair number of Italian tank model types still, you know, including the old CV-33s, but they've been shipped in some Panzer IVs and such, and some Stugs, I think. Though the Italians were also coming up with the Semaneviditi or whatever Stug type tanks as well, but they're getting some German augmentation to actually function. So that's when they're rebuilt. They're getting German tank types, because they're not getting their own design stuff designed quick enough for the use of it, and they're still not as good as the Panzer IV. But so we've jumped past them. Like I say, with this turret, this thing here, 3-man turret, I don't know if I would go so far as to have a 2-man turret like you see with the Czech tanks and like the Stuart light tank, and some of the other British models, sort of early pre-war British models. You know, for God's sakes, the Vickers Mark IV, Mark V, or Mark VI, or whatever, the sort of the one that's that has the Vickers 50 cal and the actually it's the 30 cal or whatever gun is the Bisa, the copy of the Czech 30 cal gun. That tankette, I think it's a really cool tankette. That's a 3-man tank. It has a driver. He drives. It has 2 men in the turret. It has the commander, and in the British function is they want to have the commander be the radio operator. That's especially even when they take over the grants. They get some early grants, but the radio's way down inside. We want the radio up in the turret, so they make that sort of elongated, bigger turret for the British, and they call it the Lee at that point. But so the British get rid of the guy whose job they go down from on those big tanks from 7 men to 6, because they no longer have a radio operator, because the commander's now the radio operator. So the British have the commander as the radio operator. So he's like looking around and keeping aware of everything else, and talking on the radio and tuning in the radio and switching channels, whatever. He's doing that, and this is that. And then you have a gunner, and these are, you know, in the tiny 3-man little tankettes, they have a dedicated gunner. Now it's a machine gun tank that has 2 machine guns in it, one heavy, one sort of medium, and so until you run out of ammo, you don't have to reload it, you know, so you can fire off all the 50 and then fire off all the 30 and then reload it. And of course the commander you know, can help with the reloading, you know. So it's not like a fire reload, fire reload, fire reload. You can fire for a while, you know, so hopefully you can get out of the bad shit before you have to reload. But so even the British with that realized that it's a 2-man turret minimum. Tiny tanks, minimum 2-man turret. The Czechs, again, two-man turret. They've got a commander and a gunner that separates the two, so that they're doing that kind of stuff. So the Czechs get that. Actually, the Czechs are a little bit more. They're different, and as I'm remembering, they're a commander gunner with a loader. Meaning the guy who commands the tank is also the gunner, but they have an independent loader in the Czech tanks, and so that the loader can, so the commander can fire, and once he's fired, he can then be looking around to what next while the other guy is loading it. So it's not maybe quite as good as it's not quite as good as situational awareness, but so that's a two-man turret. And some of the Italian models, I think, are sort of two-man turrets. I'm not absolutely sure right as I'm speaking here. We probably look these up before the episodes, but not always. So I don't know whether I would go so far as to have a intermediate tech and just block this out. But I'd either have a precursor more than just what we have here for a three-man turret, or block this out of like France and Italy particularly, and probably Japan. Russia definitely starts. The T-34 is a two-man turret. It's not a... Oh, no, wait, is it... No, I think it's... The early ones are one-man turrets? Oh, God. No, I'm saying... Now, a lot of their early BT series are one-man turrets. So, I don't know the early T-34s. But, no, the Soviets definitely, because they end up with the T-34-85, which is a three-man turret. And the KV-1s, I think, start out as a three-man turret. So they get this tech. So not everybody I would have this tech, but so we've blown past that. And on that note, we're going to end this episode. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. And of course, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. Love hearing from you. See you next time. Oh, I got like to say corrections. So I'm getting a little of this wrong, I'm sure. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.